everyone, welcome back to Hands-Free Studying for the MBE, brought to you by Brainscape. These upcoming criminal law questions cover defenses. Let's get started. Question 1. What are the two general types of defenses? First, you have capacity defenses, for example, insanity or intoxication. And second, you have justification defenses, which include self-defense. Question 2. What are the tests for insanity? There are 4. The first is the McNaughton test. Second, Irresistible Impulse. 3, the Durham or New Hampshire test. And 4, the Model Penal Code or MPC test. Question 3. What are the elements of the McNaughton test? The elements of the McNaughton test are first, that the defendant suffered from a mental disease or defect in reasoning, and second, that the defendant was unable to understand the nature and quality of his act, or not able to understand that what he was doing was wrong. Question 4. What is the Irresistible Impulse test? The Irresistible Impulse test looks at whether the defendant is incapable of controlling his own behavior. Remember that many states will use both the McNaughton and the Irresistible Impulse test. Question 5. What is the Durham, New Hampshire test? The Durham, New Hampshire test states that the defendant will be acquitted if his actions were the product of a mental disease or defect. In other words, but for the defendant's mental disease or defect, he would not have committed the crime. Question 6. What is the MPC test for insanity? The MPC test states that as a result of mental disease or defect, the defendant lacked substantial capacity to either appreciate the criminality of his conduct or conform his conduct to the requirements of the law. Success under either the McNaughton test or the Irresistible Impulse test will satisfy the MPC standard for insanity. Question 7. What are justification or excuse defenses? Justification or excuse defenses argue that the defendant's conduct was justified under the particular facts of the case. These types of defenses include self-defense, defense of others or defense of property, necessity, duress, crime prevention, and entrapment. Question 8. What are the elements of self-defense? The elements of self-defense are that first, the defendant honestly and reasonably believed, 2, that he was subject to an imminent unlawful use or threat of force, and 3, the defendant used proportional force to defend himself. Question 9. When can first aggressors claim self-defense? First aggressors can only claim self-defense if first they have completely withdrawn, communicated that withdrawal to the victim, and then the victim reattacks or continues attacking the defendant in light of that information, or they've used non-deadly force and the victim then responds with deadly force. Question 10. Can a victim act negligently when using self-defense? No. The victim may not act in a manner that a reasonable person would find inappropriate. You must only use force that is proportional. And that's the end of your 10 flashcard study round. To reach full mastery, remember to study in Brainscape. Our mobile and web app uses the latest in spaced repetition techniques, allowing you to optimize your study time and track your progress down to the finest detail. Of course, when you're driving, cooking, exercising, or otherwise unable to navigate the app, be sure to keep listening to the rest of this hands-free studying playlist. No matter what subject you're learning and what method you're studying it, Brainscape helps you rise to your challenge.